welcome back to another episode of Full Steam Ahead with Richmond Public Library. My name is Nicole, and I'm the teen librarian over at the East End branch. Today we're going to be doing a fun activity that involves some sewing. We're going to be making some Among Us plushies. Now, if you're unsure of what a plushie is, it's basically a stuffed animal with emphasis on being very soft. So they're very soft, plushy stuffed animals. Among Us is a very popular new video game, so we're going to be making some characters from the Among Us game by using just a couple of socks. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so before we get started, we want to make sure we have everything we're going to need in order to make our Among Us plushies. First and foremost, we're going to need some socks. You'll want one color for the body of your crewmate, and then you'll need another one for your faceplate. Now you can use white, you can use gray. I have a gray one here, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this one. But you could use whatever color you want to. You just generally want it to be a lighter shade at least than the body so that it'll look more realistic. We'll also need some stuffing. So this is a big bag of stuffing. I just got this from, you can get this from Walmart. This big bag was only like $3. This should make you easily would make probably at least 10 plushies. We'll need a needle. Be very careful, of course, because they're sharp. You may want some adult help with all the sewing parts, so don't be shy to ask for help. We'll need some thread. You can use any color of thread. I just have black here, but any color of thread will do. You won't be able to see it, so it doesn't matter. We'll need some scissors. And then lastly, we'll just need a marker. All right, and that's it. So let's get on to the first step. So before we get started, you're going to want to, of course, thread your needle, so you don't have to do that later. So threading a needle, this is the part where you might want some help from an adult. Threading the needle is pretty simple if you don't know how to do it already. You just take your thread, of course, and you put it through the hole of your needle, and you kind of double it up. And then once you get the length you like, you'll just make a little knot. You'll just do a knot over and over again at the end so that the thread doesn't just get pulled through wherever it is you're sewing. So once we're done threading our needle, we're going to go ahead and put that off to the side. We're going to be using it in just a moment. So as for the sock, we're going to first make the crewman's body. So this will be the body. We're going to turn the sock inside out like that. And then we're going to lay the sock down like this so that the heel is pointed downward and so that we have the opening down here at the bottom. So now we're going to take our marker and we're just going to draw legs right here along the bottom. So just above the heel, we'll do one leg, and I'll hold this up in a moment so you can see it when I'm done. Go up a little bit for the legs, come back down for the other leg. And you don't have to use a marker, you can use a pen. It should show up as long as it's like a gel pen. Okay. So you'll want it to look like that. So now, we're going to take our needle and thread and we're going to do what's called a half stitch. So we're going to do this along this line here that we just drew. And basically a half stitch is when you do one stitch forward and half a stitch back. And you just keep doing that all the way along the line that we drew. So the first one, we're going to start at the very edge of one side. Just like that. We'll go one stitch forward, down through the sock, and then we'll do one stitch back. So a little bit closer to the edge than the first stitch that we just made. And it will come up through the sock. And then we'll do one stitch forward again, and be careful. Again, the needle is very sharp. You don't want to poke yourself. And then half a stitch back. Okay, and we're just going to do this all the way along this line until we get to the end. Shouldn't take too long, probably just a few minutes. Okay, so now that I'm done sewing all the way along the line, I'm just going to snip my thread, and then we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut just outside the line we just sewed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut like that, and then I'll get a little bit closer. Get this extra thread. Make sure you don't cut any of your threads that you just sewed. Be careful, especially when you're going up between the legs. You can kind of do it on the other side if you want to. It'll help you see the thread in case there's any stray stitches. And then I'm going to trim off the bottom here. So when you cut between the legs, you just want to go up. You don't want to like cut along the line. Just cutting up right through here is good enough. I probably should have made my legs a little bit longer, honestly. Okay, so now that we're done with that part, we're going to cut a little tiny hole in the front right here where the faceplate is going to be. We want to make sure we want to put it where our faceplate is going to be because we're going to cover it up later. This hole is going to get covered up with the faceplate. So when I say small, it's going to be, you want to cut very small because this sock material is very stretchy. So something like this big, about the size of a dime, maybe. Okay, and then we're going to flip it inside out, just like this. Little legs out. Yeah, I probably should have made my legs a little bit longer, but you know what? That's the beauty of it. You make them a few times and you just kind of learn each time as you go until they get really, really good. All right, so now we have our little outline, and next is going to be the stuffing part. All right, so when it comes to the stuffing, you'll be surprised by how much stuffing these little plushies can actually take. So don't be afraid to be very liberal with your stuffing. So what we're going to do is we'll take about like a handful and we're going to put it through this little hole in the front. We're going to stuff the legs first. This works a lot if you use your thumbs to push it into the hole, I've noticed. And kind of just guide it in there with your thumbs. Put a little bit more. The first couple ones of these I made, I don't think I put enough stuffing, but they still came out really cute. So I feel like it's better to do too little than too much. Okay, so that's that. So now he's all stuffed up and we're gonna start doing the faceplate. So let's move on to the faceplate part while I clean up all this fluff. Okay, so for this next part, before we get started, you may want to rethread your needle with some fresh thread. That's what I did because we're going to need a pretty good amount of thread for this next part because we're going to be doing 2 different parts with the same line of thread. So be sure to rethread your needle if you need to now before you get started on the faceplate. So once you're done doing that, we're going to make the faceplate out of this sock. Now we have 2 different kind of sections we can make it out of. We can do it from this part or from this part. We just want any part that doesn't have like a curved stitch going through it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just cut off the part right above the heel here. And the faceplate, it only needs to be about the size of your palm. So it doesn't need to be super big. So I cut this part out and I'm just going to cut on the edges here on the sides of the sock so that I get one piece of cloth. Just like this. So now I'm going to cut this into an oval shape. So you kind of just, to do that, trim off the edges and go along the top. And the good thing about this is it takes so little fabric that if you are unsure if you've done it right, you have plenty of fabric left to try another one. Okay, so I have this. This is still kind of more of a circle than an oval, so I'm going to cut some off of one side to make it more oval. Okay, that looks pretty good. So it's about, see, about the size of my palm. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle and we're going to do what's called a running stitch along the edge of our faceplate. So a running stitch is just, it's the most basic stitch. It's just a stitch that runs up and down along the fabric. So you just go up like this, and you just go one stitch forward. You go back down through the fabric. And again, watch your fingers. Just like so. And you can kind of like do multiple at once if you just thread the needle a certain way through the fabric. Just like right there, I just did 3 stitches at once. But if you're unsure, don't feel like you have to rush. Just take your time. I don't know how well you can see it, but see, my stitch went all the way around the edge here. So now that I'm back at the beginning, I'm going to take a little bit of stuffing, just enough to make into like a little ball. This might even still be too much. I'm going to put it right in the center here like that. Just like this. And I'm going to pull on this thread here to kind of give my faceplate that more oval shape. And again, you can use your thumbs to kind of guide the stuffing to stay in there. You're going to do a few diagonal stitches along this opening here to kind of help it hold its shape. So we're going to take our needle and thread and we're just going to go diagonally across the opening. So it should look something like that, with your stitches going across the opening. So now we're going to attach this to the body, right over the hole that we made. And to do this, we're going to use the same line of thread, and we're just going to do 1 stitch on the body, and then we'll do 1 stitch through the faceplate. And you're just going to alternate between them until you go all the way around. All right, so this is going to be pretty much the last step. We just need to make the backpack for our crewman. So we can use the piece of sock that we used for the body. This is actually the perfect, it's perfect width. We just need to shorten it up a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the very end off, like where the ankle part is of the sock, because it's kind of puckered. I'm just going to get rid of that. All right. And then I'm going to line it up to my crewman, and let's see, I'm thinking probably like right here, right above like the heel part of this sock is good. So I'm going to cut that off. Okay. So it's going to be about this big. So now we just need to close up these 2 ends. So you'll want to thread your needle again for the last time. and we're just gonna sew these closed. You'll sew one end completely closed, and then the other end we're gonna leave a little bit open. Okay, and like I said, we're gonna leave a little opening at the end here so that we can turn it inside out. Well, right side in, because we originally turned this sock inside out. This way it's gonna hide all of our stitches that we just made. Okay, and then now we're going to put some stuffing into this hole. Just stuff it up like a backpack. Shouldn't take a whole lot. Probably about as much as the leg took, one of the legs. Just like we did the faceplate, we're going to alternate between the crewman and the backpack. And you'll want to go a little bit from the center of the backpack, out from the center, so that it doesn't attach, or so that it it's a little bit more attached to his back. And once you get one round done, going back through for a second one might not be a bad idea if you have enough thread, because the second time it's more like held in place, so you can kind of really, it's a lot easier to just attach it. Okay, so now do that, and I'm going to exit the thread through the back of this backpack, just like this. All right, and then, so I got a little extra pieces I'm going to cut off right here. Just be careful you don't get any stitches when you trim it. But I do have some fluffy parts that came up as I was sewing it. Okay, and voila! We've got our own little Among Us crewman. All right, well, thank you for tuning in for this week's Full Steam Ahead with Richmond Public Library. I hope you had some fun creating your new little Among Us buddy, and we hope to see you again soon. Until then, take care. Bye.